It's finally over. From the year 2017 to right now, 2020, it is finally over. My journey is complete. Now, I'm pretty sure the title says it all, and you guys might be thinking, okay, just say it. It took you a while. What's up? Yeah, my journey with Fate Stay Night, Heavens Feel, is finally over. From 2017 to 2020, 3 years of this journey have lasted, and now it ended to this day, on November. Could have been earlier, but through ugly life situations, we had to do it here. Let me tell you that it was pretty tough when it comes to this movie, because when I had my ticket reserved, it was refunded and canceled because, shutdown or lockdown of certain indoor activities. Then I decided not to give up and find a place that allowed me, and thank goodness it allowed me to choose and find the very thing of a movie theater nearby that I get to watch it on Wednesday night. I could have gone to Friday, but I decided to do it to Wednesday because I think it was more appropriate and it'd be the best time to do so. So yeah, my journey with Heavens Feel is finally comes to an end. So if anything else, let's start this recap and I will finally give you guys my final thoughts, I'll do my best to give you guys the best details I can of what I could get from the movie, but please forgive me if there are some things that I don't give much good detail on or some things I don't remember too well on, So if anything else, let's begin. As the movie started, there is a message, of the two voice actors who voice Shiro and Sakura, and of course they gave their message out, and then the movie starts to play. And we get to see Shiro having to see Shinji die, or Shinji's dead body. He closes his eyes in respect or just so he could be at peace. He gets a talk from Zolkin and tells him, I actually really wanted you to betray Sakura, but I am glad to have a backup plan here and there. And before Zolkin could actually possibly do anything to Shiro, Raida shows up and stops him from doing so, And then we get to see a scene with Ilya having been baited outside by Sakura. Or should I say, maybe Sakura Alter or Dark Sakura in a certain, or Dark Sakura in a certain aspect. It was pretty tough, but that aside, we see to it that Sakura is here to pick up Ilya, etc. And Rin, on the other hand, decides to stop her and tries to do combat against her, but Sakura will end up using a magic ability that would swarm Rin and overcome her or take her down, Shiro shows up with Medusa and tries to stop her, and of course we see Raida, sorry if I said the true name, but either way, it was gonna not like it really matters much anyway, but Raida shows up with Shiro and tries to stop her, from harming Shiro and tries to talk her down, but unfortunately for Raida, she gets stabbed by Dark Saber, or should I say Saber Alter, if anything. That would be a better name, obviously, from the get-go. There's no need to hide it anyway, and then she falls, etc. And of course, Ilya, knowing that the situation is really bleak, she decides to go with Sakura Alter or Dark Sakura to the castle, And we see to it that Shiro was trying to stop them both, but unfortunately, Saber Alter tells Shiro to stand back, etc. And Sakura tells Shiro, if I ever see you again, I'm going to kill you. And that goes with Saber Alter too, saying the same thing to Shiro, saying, the next time I see you, I'm beheading you right away. You got it? Etc. Then we see Shiro having to ask Kotomine Kire for help, This is where, he managed to, save Rin and puts her back at the Tosaka estate, and ends up talking to Shiro for a bit about the situation. Therefore, he decides to journey with Shiro and talks to him about what Kiritsugu was, furthermore, to Shiro, or what he was back then, what he doesn't know. Of course, like, Ryder, on the other hand, just watches the entire thing of what Shiro's been doing throughout the time, etc. And I don't know. We see to it that after talks about Kiritsugu, what he is, he tells Shiro everything about what Kiritsugu was, from the time, like, he does this and that, and then he's always been this kind of guy to, like, take down a lot of people. And honestly, if he were in your place right now, he'd kill Sakura and Mato with no hesitation. But you, on the other hand, is said otherwise, So by that time, there were some other details involving the story that's very important, and we see to it that Kotomini Kirei and Shiro shows up at the castle, and Shiro tries to, after being thrown through the window by Kirei himself, we have to it that, like, Shiro tries to tell Ilya, come on, let's go, and Ilya refuses, but Shiro tells her otherwise, and after convincing her otherwise, they finally escape, but not before Dark Sakura, or Sakura Alter, if anything, summons the Heracles Berserker that I guess she must have absorbed or something, or that other shadow absorbed, And we see to it, of course, that Shiro and Kotomine and Kira take separate ways, where Kira takes on the true assassin of Zoken, or Zoken's servant, the true assassin or something. And I already know what to say, but there's no need to say it right now. But that aside, we have to it that Kirei will later on be led to a certain church and later on takes on the true assassin, but not before, I think, after that true assassin uses Banya on him and it looked like he got his heart, but I guess it's something different. And we get to see a little bit more backstory about Kotomine and Kirei, I think he used to love someone, but after that, I guess, like, even after that woman, took her own life, I guess he didn't feel a thing. It looked like it. I think there was a lot more detail in that, but that aside, Kotomine Kirei will later on find Zoken's body on top of their abandoned church, I guess, and destroys him using some kind of enchantment, which I can't really give out or say, Forgive me on that. My biggest apologies. But as the movie continues on, Shiro and Ilya will later on still be chased by the Dark Berserker that Dark Sakura, or Sakura Alter, set out on Shiro, after she realized Shiro is nearby. Shiro, on the other hand, is about to use the arm that he was given by Archer himself, We already know who he is, from the get-go, unless you've been keeping up with the Fate Stay Night series from the very beginning of its first adaptation up until now, from the Unlimited Blade Works until right now. You already know who he truly is, but I'm just going to say Archer anyway. So we have to it that he ends up using Archer's abilities and uses some kind of sword known as Taking 9 Lives or something, 9 Life Taking Sword. Eventually he will kill Berserker, and we get to see a little backstory about him having to hold a young child in his arms, and by that time, after killing Berserker, he tells Shiro, I'm counting on you to take care of her now, and therefore Shiro faces Saber Alter, or Dark Saber, and by that time realizing something went wrong, because we have to it that Dark Sakura finds Kotomine and Kirei, and they end up exchanging a couple words, and it looks like to me Dark Sakura looked like she killed Kotomine and Kirei by grabbing his heart and through her magic and crushed it, Then by that time, Dark Saber, or Saber Alter, I'm just going to use Saber Alter because it's more appropriate for me and from the get-go, ends up having to retreat for now and tell Shiro that you are pretty much lucky, or no, you earned your result from this time. Then we go to a scene where Shiro ends up having a nasty dream where he's pierced by a bunch of blades. I guess it's a nasty side effect of him having to use Archer's arm, Then we get to see a scene with Rin and Ilya having to talk to each other, and then Ilya gives a big history lesson involving about the Holy Grail, that kind of thing, which I seem to get the idea from. And then she mentions something about Angra Mainyu having Angra Mainyu's history, There'll be one man who'll be chosen to bear all the burdens or evils and say everybody is good except me, kind of thing, Eventually, he would be summoned in the Third Holy Grail War, but he was too weak, and he will later on be casted into the whatchamacallit, the Holy Grail, etc. I'm doing the best I can to give you guys the best recap I can of this movie, so but not too much details the way I could get it, you know. Then we have to it, of course, like that Tosaka Rin asked Shiro and Ilya to do something for her, so Shiro could make a projection of a certain weapon that will help her out, you know, that could fight Dark Sakura. By that time, we get to know a little history about, like, you know, how the Matos and the Ainsburns, along with, like, the Tosakas, were the ones that created the Holy Grail War or something, or were responsible for creating all this thing from the very beginning. Eventually, we get to see, like, Iris Feel. I mean, it looks like, well, I'm just going to say Iris Feel because there's no way hiding it now. I mean, it looks like a Iris Feel homunculi, and then we get to see like some kind of ritual starting, and then something about command spells that the Matos created to bind the servants to feed the Holy Grail, and then the toe suckers are the ones who would create a barrier or a field that would allow the Holy Grail to manifest. Eventually, they end up seeing a jeweled sword that Shiro is supposed to project, and later on, he will successfully do that, you know? Eventually, he gets a meeting from Ryder and asks him, what are you going to do? Are you going to kill her? Because if that's the case, I'm going to have to stop you right now. Shiro says he's going to save her instead, you know? And he asks for her help to, like, take down one enemy that is something else, you know? Eventually, Rin will get a visit from a shadow of Sakura who tells her to escape Shiro and herself out of here. Rin, on the other hand, refuses because it was all of an act, etc., and that she alone will face her when the time comes, and she will kill her, you know? And Dark Sakura says, fine, I'll see you then, okay? And then the conversation ends there. Then we see that, Ryder and Shiro decides to work together to face one enemy. As for Sakura, she will later on be facing the true assassin and talks to Zokin, but eventually she will later on kill the true assassin after much conversation, and she ends up finding her grandfather inside her this entire time, rips him out of her body, and crushes him, you know, and drops his corpse down to the ground. Eventually, there will be a scene where Ilya sees Shiro off and tells him, bring Sakura home, okay, etc. And we have to it that, eventually, as time continues on, you know, throughout the movie, we have to it that they end up having to go to a certain mountain, and they end up going through a barrier that looked like illusion, that looks like a mountain, but that's not the case. And we have to it that Sakura gives the order to Saber Alter to allow Rin to let her go to her, you know? So Saber Alter therefore allows Rin to go while she ends up facing Shiro and Ryder. The fight scene between Saber Alter and Ryder was really intense. The way how it went about, you know, Ryder did tell Shiro, I'll give you the opening you will get, okay? So don't waste this opportunity when the time presents itself. By that time, Shiro and Ryder would later coordinate and cooperate and make a tactic eventually, you know? With Ryder using her Mystic Eyes of Petrification to the best of her ability, but that could barely even stop Saber Alter, you know? I mean, it will slow her down, but not stop her in her tracks right there. Eventually, after using the Noble Phantasm to the best of their ability, Shiro using Roll Eyes on Archer's arm and putting more damage to his body and blades piercing his body, you know. We have to it that Ryder will later on use Bellaforin, her Noble Phantasm, and manage to paralyze Saber Alter for a bit and give Shiro the opening time to use the Dagger of Azeroth or something, I think that's what's called, given by Rin to kill Saber Alter, and Saber Alter's last words was Shiro, and then finally dies. And therefore, Shiro, on the other hand, decides to go on ahead, and then, you know, the meeting between Dark Sakura and Rin ends up having to be a little conversation of a sibling argument, you know? I mean, it looks like to me when they finally started to fight each other, they seem to be on par, but with Rin having that certain jewel blade, Zeldric or something, I think that's what it's called. If I got it wrong, please forgive me. Like I said, I'm doing the best I can right here. Rin will later on use that sword ability, and then and it looks like to me Dark Sakura did not seem to have the advantage at Rin at all. It looked like they seemed to be on par or just at a stalemate for now. Rin, on the other hand, throws the blade later, and then after hearing Sakura having to complain about how much hardship she went through, you know, through these bugs and then everything else, we all know that, etc. After hearing her complain, etc. Rin, on the other hand, never tried to understand, you know, and eventually throws a sword, makes a magic incantation, and it looks like she was about to possibly stab Sakura and end her, but unfortunately she had too much of a soft heart and then hugged Sakura instead and took some damage from Sakura herself after deciding not to stab her, and then rolls away from her, and then Sakura feels so much guilt inside of her. Shiro shows up and tells Sakura to help him out as he could still save Tosaka Rin, you know? But Sakura refuses, and it looks like to me she's running out of control due to some other stuff, but Shiro, not wanting to give up on her, tells her to live despite all the sins you committed, from killing your grandfather, Shinji, and Rin Tosaka Rin, which she's not dead, obviously, which is shown throughout that fight or something. We have to that Shiro tells Sakura to live and to keep going, you know, because it's only natural to protect someone I love, and I want to help and protect you, you know, to the very end. And we see to it that Shiro will later on use Archer's arm once more to make Rule Breaker that belonged to Caster, you know, and breaks her free from that thing whatsoever. I don't know what it is, but one thing for sure is Shiro releases her from that bind, and she's all naked and so forth. Pretty hot, but you know, that aside, we see to it that there's a little thing familiar that we've been seeing throughout the time of this series, of this movie, shows up, covers Sakura, and Shiro gives Sakura to Ryder, tells her to take Rin and Sakura outside, okay? And then he decides to go to the thing to try to end it, knowing that it can't be stopped, and he wants to end it himself. Unfortunately for him, he had one obstacle in his way, and that's Kotomine Kire. By that time, they end up talking about human minds and the behavior, etc., and how he sees while Shiro sees the bliss of good fortune for people, he sees the bliss of seeing misfortune on others, you know? And this is what he's been for a long time now, only with etc. They end up exchanging blows because one wants to destroy this evil thing, the other wants this evil thing to rise, saying it's not evil, and what purpose does it have if it keeps killing? Does it live after it kills a lot of innocent lives, or does it want to die, you know? A big conversation between Shiro and Kotomine Kire, you know, when it comes to them doing a simple fist fight. And I see here as a pretty crazy realistic fight, but you know, when it comes to Shiro's body, you know, it's pierced with a lot of swords, so Kotomine Kire was taking damage at the same time. Like I said, this conversation between Kotomine Kire and Shiro looked very impactful, you know, and eventually Shiro would win against Kotomine Kire in short aspect, you know, without a lot of big detail after that conversation here and there. And Kotomine will therefore tells him, "You're the last master. I can't believe I lost to speed. Go on ahead," and then he falls down his back and then dies, you know. Shiro, on the other hand, he's about to make his last projection with possibly Archer's arm on his body, you know, and possibly lose his life. But Ilya stops him and asks him a question, "Do you want to live?" And he cries and says, "Yeah, I want to live," you know. And he tries to say her name, but it looks like he's losing his memory, which was shown towards the end of the movie when he tells Ryder to do something, you know, etc. And we see to it that Shiro finally says Ilya's name and tells him, please come back, I'll take care of this, I want to live, you know, even so." But we have to it that Ilya decides to do the deed herself and stop Shiro from doing something, and then closes the gate and then uses some kind of magic, possibly on Shiro, something that a true magic that he will see, you know, that kind of thing. And we have to it that eventually Ilya closes the gate, and then she later on runs to the arms of her mother after seeing a projection of her, and then runs into our arms. And then all of a sudden we see a big giant explosion of light, and then Shiro, who had Tosaka's gem that was shown in the movie, and then at the first movie he kept it with him, and then later on it cracks, and then he ends up having to grab onto the arm of Archer, after reaching out to him, and then all of a sudden everything turns bright light and then dissipates. We have to it that Sakura, Mato, and Rin goes back to their daily routine of life, and they still keep connected with each other as siblings to try to catch up on what's been missing throughout the last 11 years of what it was, if I remember the exact number, Eventually, I think it will later on show some other small detail that they find some kind of strange body or something that looks like some kind of doll or mannequin or something, and then all of a sudden they had something in their hands, and then all of a sudden it comes to life, etc. I don't know. But eventually, towards the end of the movie, it does show Shiro having to pack up lunch with Sakura, and then Rin, Ryder, Taiga, they all get ready to go visit some friends after many years passed, I guess. And then, of course, they all seem to be having fun. Sakura, bloom trees, that kind of thing. Shiro and Sakura are standing next to each other, and they both take one big step, and the movie ends there. And there's no post-credit scene, and then the song sung by Aimer was really beautiful in the way how it ended. So yeah, that was a pretty... I'm sorry if I gave out too many short vague details of Heavens Feel Part 3, but this is the best I can do, I mean, if you watched the movie already, possibly tonight or so, or later down the road, whenever you watch this recap and my final thoughts, I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. Well, that was one hell of a journey for me, and now to give you guys my final thoughts, etc. for the entirety of Heavens Feel movie, from part 1, part 2, and part 3. I feel like I finally finished my journey with Heavens Feel, and I don't know if there's any more to come from Ufotable, I mean, they done crazy jobs when it comes to Unlimited Blade Works, and then Heavens Feel. The movies were really great. I mean, I think I still had some issues with it because I think there might be some details missing at the same time, and I've been questioning about Archer's arm ability when it comes to Shiro, when he used it in this movie, and then etc. Even though when it comes to Castor, and then Castor, she didn't have much of a big role, especially the assassin servant. I really wish we could have found out a lot more about them when it comes to these things, but it is what it is. And then the fight with Lancer and Assassin, and then it goes from Saber Alter, and then Berserker, etc. Yeah, Saber Alter was pretty crazy as an antagonist throughout at least this movie, etc. Her powers were pretty crazy, etc. Pretty crazy. At least Ryder was able to match her head on for at least a couple minutes, and then Shiro deals with killing blow. So yeah, and then Sakura, we all know her, we all love her, I love her already, and etc. It's really hard to give my final thoughts right now because I don't know. All I know is it's been one hell of a journey. I did have some issues when it comes to certain servants and etc. about not too much screen time, or maybe about Sakura being this thing. It's kind of questionable about how things went about, but it is what it is, and then, yeah. Eventually, they all still together, with the exception of Ilya, we all know what happened to her. I mean, anyone who played the game of Fate Stay Night, Heavens Feel route, or etc., you know what I'm talking about. All I know is this final movie, it has been, the final movie, Spring Song, it felt like a big closure right now to possibly all the routes of Fate Stay Night, but I don't know, man. I mean, although many are hoping maybe Ufotable may remake the first route, which I don't know if that really might be the case, but if it does happen, it does happen. But that aside, yeah, my journey with Heavens Feel comes to an end, and when I look back of how I watched the movies, and then seeing my scores on it, when I rated on Mal, I gave 2 8s for part 1 and part 2, and now I feel like giving a 8 to a 9 out of 10 for part 3 as a definite nice closure, and yeah. So overall, I guess you could say my overall thoughts for the movies is possibly 8 out of 10 for all three. Maybe it might be a little bit lower depending on how what you'll be critiquing or what you may be thinking. So I'm just trying to understand both sides. Yeah, it's been a nice journey. I never thought my first anime movie in certain movie theaters would start with Heavens Feel, and then I started to watch multiple anime movies after that, etc. From Heavens Feel to Promare, and then Weathering with You, and now Heavens Feel Part 3, and now I'm glad I finished it. It's finally over, guys. It's been a really wild ride the way I'm thinking about it right now. It's really somewhat emotional for me right now because it's finally over. I never thought that final movie will feel like a definite closure. Although I was hoping to see a post-credit scene or maybe some other post-announcement whatsoever. But yeah, it's finally over. I know I'm saying this multiple times, but it's just really hard to get this through. Anyways, I'm done, people. Thank you guys so much for listening to this final recap and my final thoughts on it. I'm looking forward to whatever is my next journey. I don't know what's bound to happen next when it comes to certain movie recaps or journeys, but I'm really hoping that I find another one to begin and see it to the end should it come about. So until then, people, thank you guys so much. I hope you guys enjoyed this journey for these 3 years from 2017 to 2020, etc. to the very end. I wish there was a bigger crowd I could have watched, but because of this pandemic happening, there's no other choice and have limited space. But I'm glad enough I was able to find a movie theater that I was able to watch Heavens Feel Part 3, and yeah. Anyways, just gotta end it here. It's been a great ride. It's finally over. Hope you guys enjoyed your biggest journey with Heavens Feel as much as I did. So until the end, I'll see you guys in my next video. So I'm Alpha Zero. Have a good day wherever you are. Stay safe, be safe, stay healthy, stay clean, and I'll see you guys later, alright? Peace out. Bye-bye. Toot-toot-toot!